You may have heard recently about the rise of ChatGPT, the AI technology software that provides incredibly human-like responses to questions like create a recipe for a chocolate brownie or write me a movie script about a breakfast television presenter who's recruited by the FBI. Wouldn't that be a good watch? But with the sophisticated technology comes concerns about plagiarism, prompting its creators to now build a tool to detect work done by AI computers. Are you following me? Joining me now to hopefully help you follow this is tech commentator, podcaster and CEO of Guerrilla Technology, Paul Spain. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, man.
It is slightly complicated for someone like me who doesn't really understand technology at the best of times. So let's start with actually talking about what ChatGPT is.
So ChatGPT, I guess you could think of it, we go to Google today to, ask questions and so on and get results, but we just get a list of web pages. With ChatGPT, you can ask it a question and it will produce a very human-like result. So you can ask it all manner of things. I was speaking with a school teacher yesterday, and one thing that she finds tedious is creating lesson plans. So we asked it, create a lesson plan, for this age group, this sort of class, what the topic was, and it wrote up a lesson plan.
Basically by pulling from all of the different areas that Google might suggest you to look up if you were to Google that.
Yeah, like a human could do it. In another case, today there'll be around Auckland, there'll be parents with kids at home that they maybe weren't planning for. They could jump in and ask for some suggestions for school activities or holiday activities for kids of, X age in Auckland, and it will come up with some ideas.
And the point being, it's really realistic, right? Because I've in the past seen some hilarious results of someone saying, I've used an AI to watch 20 hours of rom-coms and write me a movie script, and the movie scripts are terrible. But the point is, these aren't terrible. These are actually really good.
In a lot of cases, it's certainly not perfect, but it is very useful, and there are just so many things that it can do for you.
It's at capacity right now, but thankfully, here's something I prepared earlier. We asked it earlier to write a poem about breakfast television. I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll read you the first couple of lines. Breakfast television, a morning delight, a time to unwind before the day takes flight, a cup of coffee and a news update, a moment of peace before the rush begins to abate.
That's pretty good.
Beautiful. What a beautiful poem. So it's really sophisticated. But what are the dangers of technology like this, Paul?
Well, I prefer to sort of look towards what, the opportunities, but of course there are always two sides
right.
to new technologies. And, for instance, in my business, we've been interviewing a few people recently, and there are, there's some sort of content that you want the individual person to generate themselves in terms of answers, but you might also want to look for how they've used, technology to come up with a solution too. And this is one of the challenges we're seeing in the education sector, is deciding, how do you limit that, or should you limit it, and then how do you tell that people are using these technologies?
Exactly, because I was just thinking, you said you were in a school yesterday or this week. If a student, for example, was saying, can you write me an essay on the Battle of Passchendaele? Well, we've seen the results, they're pretty good. And so potentially a student could ask them to write an entire essay that gets them a pretty good grade.
Yeah, look, quite possibly. And so that's where schools have to rethink it. But what OpenAI, who released the ChatGPT trial for folks to try out, have done is they've just launched a tool that allows you to feed content into it and to get its feedback as to whether it thinks it was generated by AI or by a human. The problem is that technology is not perfect, so it's a little bit of a flip of a coin, and you kind of shouldn't have too much confidence in that technology either.
Just yet, or do you think will it get better as it goes on?
It probably will get a bit better, but of course you can always game these systems, right? So you take something that an AI's generated, and then you add your own modifications to it, and probably isn't going to take too much to trick the technology. So I don't think we should be relying too much on this. We need to work out how to use this technology rather than how to detect it.
But schools will be going, God, do I even allow this kind of technology in my school? Do we need to block it so that students can't use it? Because they will be worried about plagiarism, right?
Look, there are certain situations where today we have closed book types of tests, and tests where students can access a wide variety of tools, and we don't tell folks to go and do a task without access to Google generally. So in the same sort of way, we're going to have to work in how we take advantage of the technology rather than being too concerned that it's going to get used, because it's just going to be another tool, just the same way we accept the use of all of the other technology tools we use daily in our lives.
And it's worth taking advantage of?
Absolutely. When we take advantage of these tools, these are the things that allow us to lift productivity, to resolve some of the issues that we have in society, right? So if we stay back and, are fearful of the technology, then our economy suffers. We deal with the challenges that, that we have across society. Where we leverage the technology, we can help, lift people up.
Paul, thank you so much for your insight. You've made it very understandable for me, which is no mean feat. That's Paul Spain, the tech commentator and Gorilla HQ founder. Thank you for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.